I'm the Avid, and today we're doing another live stream. And hopefully, my father will be able to get on this live stream. And I was supposed to use this new setup thing I got, um, but there's some problem with the tripod thing. For some reason, the camera does doesn't allow me to put it correctly. I think, yeah, orientation is locked for some reason. Maybe I could fix that. I'm not sure. For some reasons, orientation is locked, so I'm gonna have to talk like this. But I'm the avid reader, and I'm trying to do a live stream here with my father. He's a few minutes late, I think, so I'll start a live stream with him, and hopefully he'll join us in a few minutes. So today, me and my father went book shopping in Amsterdam, and we visited 4 different bookstores. So we went to Shell Thema, we went to the American Book Center, we went to the Book Exchange, and we went to the English Bookshop. So all of these bookstores had a lot of books in English. You should Hymns are beautiful. You should make a library anything. I did to track of my own library, and I currently own just about 300 books. Oh yeah, Williams Libraries, greetings. Oh yeah, hymns are beautiful. Well, I track the books that I own, but I haven't read yet. But I haven't made a library thing of all the books I own. But there are a lot, so I could do that. But I have books dispersed in in plenty of in several different countries. So yeah, if I had did a library thing, then there would be a section for the Netherlands, a section for Belgium, and a section for Sweden. But while we were book shopping, me and my father, I got 15 books, and my father got a couple books himself. And my father, for my since it's my birthday today, he was nice enough to let me buy about 100 euros worth of books. So almost all of these he paid for himself, which was very nice of him. So hopefully he'll join soon, but I'm gonna start talking about the books I have here. He went back to Belgium today, so hopefully he'll be joining us. But so he has some of the books, but I have some of the books with me here. But before we went book shopping, I got this book for my birthday from my mother called Historien om Sverige, Williams Library. Oh, hey, happy birthday, by the way. Thanks. So I got this book in Swedish, which is a book about Swedish history, which starts from at the Ice Age and goes up to today. Hymns are beautiful. I vaguely remember my 20th birthday. Yeah, well, for the first time now, I'm not a teen anymore. So that's very unique. I've been a teenager for 8 years, and now it's over finally. So that's something. But that was the book I got. Then I also got myself the Penultimate Truth by Philip K. Dick. There was one of the bookstores I went to, the English bookshop. They had a lot of Philip K. Dick's books for some reason, and they were only 6 euros each. So I wanted to get a lot of them, but I only got one in the end. So I got Penultimate Truth, which is a book where people think World War III is going on. So they are hiding in a cave underground, while in reality you have society that's been prosperous, and East and West are at peace finally somehow. So yeah, it's Philip K. Dick writes a lot of weird sci-fi. I like Michael Crichton sci-fi, but Philip K. Dick, it's very, very creative. So this should be an interesting book to read. And I also got Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. I got this at the American Book Center, and it's a dystopia book about book burning. So I was watching a YouTuber, and he talked about this book. So Sounds like an interesting story, and it's from the 50s. Hymns are beautiful. We went to a place called Pittsburgh and went on a historical boat ride that allows you to see major landmarks on the various rivers. Yeah. Well, me and my father went to Amsterdam, basically visited bookstores all day. And yesterday we went to a Comic Con in one of the provinces in the Netherlands. So, yeah. Then another book I got was 1917 Russia's Year of Revolution by Roy Bainton, which is a short history book about revolutionary Russia in 1917. As in 1917, you had several revolutions in Russia. You had the liberal one in March under Kerensky, and then you had the communist authoritarian revolution in November under the communists under Lenin. So this should be an interesting and concise book, and it's very specific. So I want to learn more about Russian history, so this should be a pretty interesting start. Then here next book I have here is Classical Civilization from the Origins of Democracy to the Fall of the Roman Empire by Stephen Kershaw. That's an odd name. So it's a brief guide to classical civilization. So of course we know that the inventors of democracies are the Greeks and their successors were the Romans. So this should be a concise book about this up to the end of the Roman Empire, which when the Roman Empire ends, as we all know, living standards decline for 1,000 years or so. But I recently finished reading a very big book on ancient Greek civilization, which I will be talking about later. So yeah. Then I got a book about the Indian Wars. So the United States didn't really have that much domestic wars in the 19th century, except with the American Civil War. But the exception to that was that they were fighting a lot of Indians, several wars. So they fought the Indians for what, 300 years? Oh, and there are some images here. That's nice. And yeah, it talks about Indian wars. And this is an old book. This was written back in the 70s. So yeah. Then another book I ended up reading was no, not reading. Getting was A Short History of Canada by Desmond Morton. So I don't know if you guys know, but I'm actually Canadian. I acquired Canadian citizenships or a Canadian passport a couple years ago, and I have been a Canadian citizen all my life. And we're gonna be visiting Canada in a few months, so it would be interesting to read about the history of Canada, as they have parallels to British and American history, both of them. Yeah. And oh yeah, you look, and I got there's this amazing bookstore in Amsterdam called the Book Exchange, where they have just a lot of used English books, and they have on a variety of topics. And this is the bookmark I got actually. And I got a lot of fiction books from them, but I also got some non-fiction books. And I like history, as you know, so I got some history books from them. So yeah. And then the final book I have on me here, although my father has the rest. Final book I've got on me here. Oh, and it's a Routledge book, so it's a nice edition. It's from Gracchi to Nero by Schoolard. I don't H. Schoolard. I wonder when this was written. This is from the 50s actually. This was written by H. Schoolard in 1959. Huh. And it's about towards the end of the Roman Republic towards the beginning of the Roman Empire. So it's from 133 BC to 68 AD. So a couple hundred years of Roman history, which I want to learn more about Rome. I've read about Greek democracy recently, so I eventually want to read about Roman democracy. I don't know when I'll do that, but I want to do that eventually. Um, Williams Library. I've only got 3 nonfiction books on my TBR. I usually just use them for reference and study rather than try to appreciate the overall message. Oh yeah, Williams Library. Well, I read slightly more nonfiction books than fiction books actually, and Williams Library. I read for escapism. Yeah, think to think about it, I don't really read for escapism. I just do it because it's fun, but it's also a very interesting way to learn. So yeah. Oh, now my father can join the stream. Good. So you should be able to see him now. Let's see. I added him, and this is my father. Hi,
Hello,
father.
everyone.
Let's see. I can't hear you. Maybe.
Can you hear me? No.
Oh yeah. I need to remove my mic, so otherwise I won't hear you. But yeah, now I can hear you. Good.
Okay, great. Hello,
Yeah.
hello, everyone.
So this is my father. You can present yourself if you want.
So yes, so I'm William's father. My name is Massimo, and yeah, I was really happy that he invited me to participate to this live stream. We spent today in Amsterdam looking for books, and we were very successful because we found a lot of books. And here you can see my co-partner, Lucky. He's not a big reader, but he enjoys hanging out with people who read. So he's really a nice friend if you enjoy reading.
Yeah, that's my father's cat, and before I met that cat, I didn't like cats, but since I've met that cat called Lucky, I appreciate a lot more cats. So where I live in the Netherlands, when I go on walks, sometimes I see cats, and I actually put myself at their level, and sometimes they come to me, and I am allowed to pet them. So yes, some animals change your perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've already talked about the books I've got here. So then we can start showing the books that you have with us. But before we continue, keep in mind those who are viewing that you're of course allowed to ask questions to me or my father or both.
Yeah.
So let's see. So I think you're supposed to. One of the books that I got that you have, I think, is A World in Disarray.
A World in Disarray.
Yeah.
There's many books here. Just
Yeah.
a moment.
Yeah.
Yes, there it is.
Okay, let's see. So, A World in Disarray by Richard Hess, American Foreign Policy and the Crisis of the Old Order. So, you guys know that I read a lot of geopolitics. So, when I try to find geopolitics books whenever I can, and this is about the Cold War, and I think it's a critique of American foreign policy. I'm not sure. Probably it's a critique of how the Clintons and the Bushes have acted during foreign policy, because there's a lot of skepticism about that. So yeah, that should be an interesting book. Although I have a lot of geopolitics books to read, so I'll not read this book until next year probably. So yeah, Williams Library. I've had cats as pets in the past, but after a while they disappear in the attic, never to be seen again in the.
That's not so good.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, we've had dogs in our family for very long time. So I'm used to dogs, but now I've known cats for a few years. So they both are nice. Dogs are very loyal, but then cats are, they like to go on you, and they're quite warm. They're good. They're interesting reading buddies, you could say. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Next book is there's Micro, I think, by Michael Crichton.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, so this is one of the posthumous books released by after Michael Crichton died, unfortunately, and this was actually not finished. So that wasn't finished. This book wasn't finished when he died. So this was completed by Richard Preston, and I've heard some bad things about this book, but I've never read anything that's actually bad by Michael Crichton. Everything I've read by him for me is good or great or amazing. So I want to eventually read all Michael Crichton books. So that should be an interesting read eventually. Yeah. And next, I also got another Michael Crichton book, Eaters of the Dead.
There it is.
And I think this takes place during the Middle Ages. It's supposedly plausible historical fiction. I'm not really sure what it's about, but apparently there's also some creepy cannibals in this book. And this is one of Michael Crichton's older books. I think this is written back in the 70s. So, yeah. Okay, next book is A World Without End by Ken Follett.
Oh. I'm not sure. You gave me this book. No, I have Winter of the World.
Maybe
I think you have it.
what's the book Winter of the World?
Yeah, I have Winter of the World.
Oh yeah, that's the one. I wrote the wrong title. Oh yeah, that's the book Winter of the World by Ken Follett. That's the sequel to Fall of Giants, by Ken Follett, which was about World War One. This is about World War Two historical fiction, and these are big books. So I want to read this eventually. Maybe not this Christmas. I think this Christmas I'll read The Last Dark Tower, but the Christmas next year I may read that book by Ken Follett because it's interesting historical fiction that he writes. Although there's a bit too much romance in his books. Yeah. Do you like romance in books?
Myself,
Yeah.
not too much, and it depends what kind of romance. If it's a bit creative, maybe.
Yeah. The romance in Ken Follett books, there's also a bit from the woman's perspective, so that's a bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
Hymns are beautiful. I got real beef with the fact that Michael never wanted to write The Lost World until Spielberg bugged him into doing so, and didn't even follow the main plot of the book. Yeah.
So so I see a question from Hymns Are Beautiful. Did your father ever have any aspirations to leave Europe? Well, actually, I was born and raised in Montreal, Canada, and I came to Europe to study in 1994. I wanted to get a master's in business from an American university because those are well regarded in the Canadian business world. But I wasn't so interested in going to the US because it's quite similar to Canada. So I found a US university in Europe that gave programs masters in business or finance, Boston University. So first I studied in Rome and then in Brussels. And then I ended up staying in Europe, and I've been here ever since.
I think I'm gonna address the comments by Hymns Are Beautiful, but there's another question for you. So, relating to Michael Crichton and The Lost World, well, I read The Lost World and I also liked that book almost as much as Jurassic Park. But yeah, the book Lost World, that's written specifically to be very action driven. It's supposed to be. It was written intended to be made into a movie. So yeah, the plot is not as developed as in Jurassic Park, but I like that book. But I can understand why people don't like that book that much. That's about among the least popular books by Michael Crichton for a lot of people. Okay, and then there's a question here for my father. So, are you used to being on camera? I know some friends and family who are camera shy.
Well, I'm not so much used to being on camera, but we have a lot of videos for my work, and I'm used to presenting at work on a regular basis. So I'm not so shy being in front of people and presenting.
Yeah. And this channel I've been running now for 3 years about. So the channel just turned 3 years old in April 22nd or so, and it will soon be 3 years since I released my first video. And you can maybe see throughout this channel the evolution of me, whether I'm camera shy a bit, but yeah, Hopefully, I'm more well spoken now than I was a few years ago. Okay. Hymns are beautiful. I've bought about 100 used books for roughly 150 books. I'm gonna guess you meant dollars. I've bought about 100 used books for roughly $150 over the past few months, thanks to eBay and various used bookstores. My small town in Ohio is getting a second used bookstore in this year. Yeah, you Americans are very, very lucky with all your used bookstores. We have some in Europe, but not to the same extent as in America. And you have your books in English, which is very nice. I went
But I
to a
have to say, Amsterdam has a lot of bookstores that offer books in English, including used books, as we found out today.
Oh yes, yeah. If you ever want to go to a used bookstore in Amsterdam or when you're in the Netherlands, you should go to the book exchange. That's a very good used bookstore, and it's quite big. The selection they have, yeah,
Well, they said over 50,000 books on their website.
yeah. And then there's another smaller bookstore, the English Bookshop, where it's not really a used bookstores, but the books are quite cheap for some reason. They're €6 or €9, which is pretty good for a bookstore.
Yeah, and
Especially,
they have a lot of books on special. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, now let's move on to the next book. So next book is Peshawar's Lancers by S.M. Sterling.
Oh yes.
Yes. So I think this is an alternate history book by S.M. Sterling. I think technology stops working, development stops working after 1873 because of some disaster. So the great powers in the future are some other powers to what we know today. So it should be a weird alternate history. And I've read one book by S.M. Sterling I didn't like it, but I'm giving him a second chance because he's the second biggest alternate history writer after Harry Turtledove. So it would be very sad if I won't enjoy the alternate history of the second biggest alternate history author. So another comment here: hymns are beautiful. The American thrift store Goodwill is a building dedicated to used bookstores. Wait, you have a store that has multiple used bookstores in the USA, because that sounds awesome. Will Williams Library. I did go to a used bookstore in Amsterdam many years ago. I bought some books from David Wingrove's Middle Kingdom series there. I think that store is closed now. Yeah. That's a bit sad when they close bookstores.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's especially important to keep buying a lot of books in physical bookstores if we want them to stay open, even if it costs a bit more.
Yeah. Used bookstores are cheap, but it's still important to go to regular bookstores and get some books there because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, profit margins aren't that big for those types of stores. And if you don't buy from those stores, you're just gonna get books from Amazon, and Amazon has good prices, but there's nothing that compares the experience of visiting a bookstore.
Mm. Well, I think profit margins on used books are quite good. On new books, I don't know,
Yeah.
but still, even if the profit margins on used books are good, if they make a few euros per book, it's not a lot of money to cover all of the working capital and the other overhead, and for the owner to have a decent revenue. So I don't think they tend to make a lot of money.
Yeah. Hey, you can get and you. That's the cat, Lucky.
Yeah, he wants to go out.
He asking for attention. Let's see. Next book is, I don't know what it's called. There's a book about Rome. A short book, but it's a very big book. Let's see.
I think you have it.
No, I don't have it there. I'm not sure what it's called. There should be about some big book with primary sources. It's thin, but it's large. Yeah. Williams Library. I agree. Going to bookstores are great, especially at the airports. Yeah, yeah. I've seen some good bookstore. Good. I found some good books by going to the airport at Brussels or Stockholm. Or yeah, dude.
Not, I don't have any book on Rome here that you gave me. No.
And that's well. Then we'll have to skip past that because we don't know where we put that book. Then.
Just 1 second, perhaps.
Oh
This
yeah.
one. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Roman people.
Oh
Is
yeah.
that it?
That. What's
Sorry.
that? What's that book called?
Roman people.
And who's the author?
Robert P. Kibrick. Robert
Yeah.
B. Kibrick.
Yeah. So this book basically tells the story of the history of Rome, but it uses a lot of primary sources. And I want to write a history book eventually, so that could be a useful source for such a book because you need to write good history. You really need primary sources, especially secondary sources are important, but you have more legitimacy with a primary source. So that should be a useful book.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, he's coming up the lucky.
He's back. He's back.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
Yeah. So hymns are beautiful. Apparently, reading picked up during COVID among adults here in the United States. Good. We have one good consequence of the pandemic. It killed a lot of people, but at least people read more, so that's something. Hymns are beautiful, which would explain why used books, which would explain why used bookstores are popping up all around the America. Oh yeah, that's interesting. And for my taste, I usually actually find more interesting books when I go to used bookstores than to a regular bookstore. A regular bookstore, they have a lot of books, but those type of books that they have, I don't not really interested. They've got a lot of young adult and a lot of fantasy. But if you want to find alternate history books or old interesting history books, you have to go to a used bookstore. And you'll find books in a used bookstores you've never heard of, but you won't find those books in a regular bookstore. Yeah. Okay. Oh, he's looking at the camera almost.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think his English is pretty good because I live in a commune where there's a lot of expats.
Yeah.
So I think he understands English as well as French and Dutch. So it's
Yeah.
a pretty smart cat.
Yeah. And very friendly for a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are a lot of friendly cats where I live in the Netherlands. There's at least 3 of them I've seen. And there's one that actually let me carry him for some reason. He just walked up to me and I carried him around for 100 meters or so. So that was interesting. Hymns are beautiful. What is university like in Europe? So for I have no university experience in America, so I cannot compare it with. But university, at least in the Netherlands, it's very serious. They don't screw around at all. So you pass. If you get if you almost pass, then you get a retrial for the test. But if you don't pass at least 3/4 of your courses in the first year, they kick you out of the program. So yeah, they're quite harsh, and they have very high standards, and they have deadlines very all the time. It's a quick tempo, and we have a lot of homework. So yeah, and they scheduled my Monday this block, so I have classes now from 9 until 5 pretty much. So yeah, that it's a bit tiresome, but you learn a lot, and it's a lot less political. I think universities in Europe than in America. You don't have too much political correctness and polarization and hatred of certain people who think differently. Uh, Williams Library used bookstores have those awesome paperbacks from hell, horror novels popular in horror booktube. Oh, I've never heard of that. Paperbacks from hell. I saw a big Stephen King book section at the American Book Center, so that was something nice. Hymns are beautiful. Turtle Love wrote YA alternate history, and they're pretty easy reads. Yeah, I want to read the YA by Harry Turtle Love, but at least that's alternate history. What counts as YA is is fantasy usually or science fiction with a lot of romance. So if there's alternate history, then I can read the YA. But I've never actually read YA voluntarily. I think maybe for school sometimes. Do you know what YA is? That
Young adults.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hymns are beautiful. I graduated with a history degree, and when I talked about getting a master's and a PhD, my professors told me it was a bad idea getting into higher academia in the current state of the world. Well, that's why think tanks exist, because think tanks allow you to think independently more. So if I may get a PhD eventually in my life, so first a bachelor's, then a master's, then a PhD, but I don't want to working at the academia necessarily because they're gonna try to make me speak in a certain way and think in a certain way. But yeah, there are a lot of think tanks in North America that look interesting to work at. So you can go work at that maybe instead of going into academia if you get a PhD. See, next book is Eye of the Needle, I think, by Ken Follett.
You have it. I have the key to Rebecca.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, well, maybe that was the book. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, key to the key to the Key to Rebecca by Ken Follett. That's one of his older books. I think this is written in the 70s or 80s. And that's one of his World War II books. And that takes place in North Africa, I believe. So gives you a different perspective on World War II. And I haven't read any of his World War II novels yet, but I have several. So I have a lot to choose from. Okay, and the final book I bought was Migrations and Cultures by Thomas Sowell. Let's see.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah. So I actually got this book. I actually borrowed this book from the library last month and read it, and I've reviewed this in early April. But I think this could be an interesting history book source eventually if I write a history book, and it's a really good book. So I wanted to have a copy of it. I have race and culture now. I have migrations and culture, so that's pretty good. Okay, more comments. Hymns are beautiful. I decided to become a school teacher. I'd be a 9 to 5 employee, and it won't be as complex as university papers to grade, and I get to read every night. Hymns are beautiful. And I get my summers off. Oh yeah. And there's some, and since it's the USA, there's probably some teachers' union that gives you a pretty good package, I'd expect. Oh, there's a question for you, Dad. Sir, what do you think of your son having this YouTube channel?
Well, I'm of course very happy with it. I watch it quite a bit. I don't look at all of his reviews in full because there's quite a few, and there's already a lot on his channel. But I try to keep up, and I'm very proud that he reads so much and that he shares it with other people through his YouTube channel.
Yeah. And now we're at 387 subscribers, so there's a lot of people who watch, and I get statistics now each week of how many people have watched, and there's about 200 viewers or so, individual viewers who watch each week, which is quite nice. So we have a little community now.
I think you'll probably be at 1,000 by early next year.
Yeah, my guesstimate is I'll be at 1,000 maybe in summer next year. But I think I'll be at 500 towards the end of this summer this year, so that's nice. Williams Library. I recently discovered the new alternate history author Lavi Tidar. Never heard of him or her. What makes him? Oh, him. Okay, good. What makes him interesting is his framing of narratives. His novel Osama is a story where Osama is just a comic book character. Hey, that's something for you, a comic book character. Yeah. Yeah, my father likes comics books a lot.
Yeah. I haven't heard of this one.
No. Okay, so now we've talked about the books I got. Now we get to talk. Now my father gets to present what the books he actually got.
Yeah. So yesterday I just finished reading a book, a nonfiction book about well, by a so-called expert on the white supremacy movement in the U.S. But I thought it was an interesting book because it was quite detailed and with a lot of history. It's called "Bring the War Home" by Kathleen Belew, and I finished reading it yesterday, so I was ready to start a new book. And then I came across this book today, which came out just last year, so it's very recent, and it seemed especially interesting, especially recently. What do you see? Because there's a lot of, yeah, that's better. Um, we saw that the Biden administration in recent months took more aggressive steps about limiting technology access to China, including semiconductors. So I thought this book was would be an interesting read. It just came out last year, and it was a Financial Times Business Book of the Year, and it gets nice comments from Paul Kennedy and Daniel Yergin. So I figured it was probably a good book to read. And I think these books are especially interesting if you read them when they recently came out, because I think they can become dated quite quickly.
But there's so much to read, so that's an optimistic thought.
Yeah, but I committed to start reading this book today, so
That's good.
you know. Uh, and at the used bookstore today, I found this book. So I follow a channel called Paperback Warriors, where they cover a lot of crime novels, the older paperback crime novels. And I thought this looked interesting. I'll just take it out of the plastic bag so you can see it better because there's a lot of glare, I think. And I thought this was especially interesting. So it's a book from 1964, and it's actually a mystery magazine, but in paperback format. And there's a number of stories in this book. So I just thought it would be interesting, yeah, reading these stories.
Yeah, my
But,
a big fan of these paperback warrior guys for some reason.
yeah, and yeah, it's quite nice. You see some old ads from the time from 1974,
And the pages are
and
yellow.
yeah, and yeah, probably stories that would be considered politically incorrect today, including the drawings and the pictures, which makes it maybe more interesting for older people like me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, so now we've gotten on the book haul, so we're gonna move on to what I've read actually since the last wrap up live stream I did. So since then, I've read 5 books. So the lucky again. So yeah. So the first book is Migrations and Culture. So you have a copy of that. You've already showed it once. I think.
yeah, migrations and culture.
Yeah. Let's see. So that's the second book of Thomas Sowell Culture Trilogy. So I actually read it by borrowing from the library last month, and it's a history of migration. So you get the history of how how the Japanese, the Chinese, the Germans, the Italians, the Jews, maybe some other ethnic group. Oh yeah, and the Indians have migrated throughout history, and so it's a very interesting history book, and you learn a lot through reading this book. So Thomas Sowell is a great historian, not only a great economist, but you learn about a lot of great history here. So that's the first book. A lot of the other books that I've read, we don't have them here. I've left them in Sweden, unfortunately, but that's life. So the next book I read what is called, it's a Swedish book. I've been trying to read a bit more in Swedish recently, so I read whenever I'm on holiday. I try to read a Swedish history book. And the one I read in early April or late March, I'm not sure, is called Civilisationens uppkomst by Dick Harrison. And this is a book basically of the start of civilization. It's a very short book, less than a couple hundred pages, and it talks about the creation of civilization. So yeah, talks about slavery, and yeah, it talks about that slavery a bit, for example. So that was an interesting book, and he's written a lot of books, that Swedish historian. So so I may read more of his books. We're gonna talk about this later. This is the last book I read, but
Okay,
yeah,
it's quite a read. It's quite a read.
yes. Okay, the next book I finished was the sixth Dark Tower book, Song of Susanna by Stephen King. So since what 2-3 years ago I started the Dark Tower series, and I've been slowly making my way through it, and now I've read the penultimate book, and it's Song of Susanna, and it's a weird Dark Tower book. I don't rank it very highly among Dark Tower books, and the Tower is not that decent of. It's not that great of a series, but it's still very interesting for a Stephen King multiverse. And there's also a book knot in this book who's a bit crazy. He loves his book a bit too much. The mafia is after him, and he basically goes into whatever bookstore and gives his name. So yeah, he almost gets himself killed because he loves a bit too much books. And he one of the books he really liked, he almost had a heart attack once because he sold the book for a very good price, but he wanted to keep it. So yeah, Stephen. Oh yeah, and Stephen King is a character in this book, weirdly. And the book ends with Stephen King's diary for some reason. So I don't like fantasy really, but I like Stephen King fantasy because it's really weird. Okay, the next book I finished reading this month is, and this is probably the most controversial book I read, is The Israel Lobby and U.S. Foreign Policy by John Mearsheimer and Stephen Waltz. I've read a few books by John Mearsheimer. He's a very important guy in international relations and geopolitics among scholars. But he wrote a very controversial book 15 years ago, which talks about the influence of the Israel lobby in the United States to guide foreign policy. So that book basically says that the APAC, so the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and things like the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, they basically really push the USA strongly to back Israel no matter what. And that book basically argues that a lot of US foreign policy in the Middle East is because of Israeli pressure or people who are pro-Israel. And because of that, the USA has done a lot of bad things in foreign policy in the Arab world, and the Arabs hate us in large part because of Israel. So it's an interesting thesis. I don't fully agree with it, but I agree with it somehow. And for some reason, when this book was written, these authors were called anti-Semites, but they're not anti-Semites. They support Israel, and a lot of the people who are critical of Israel who have been called anti-Semites are Jews. So yeah, you have the Israel has its own version of political correctness in America, oddly enough. Yeah.
If you just give me a second, William, I'll just let out Lucky.
Yeah, I can see another comment here. So, William's Library. I saw Stephen King in his cameo in the film It Part 2. He was not a store owner he was a store owner who did not like reading. I've actually got the pop of that. Give me a second. I can actually grab this. Where is it? Wait a second. Where did my father move it? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, this is the pop you're talking about. This is the character you're talking about, William's Library. I got this for my birthday last year. And pops, they're not that much my thing. Peaceful Lord, this live stream is going very well. Very interesting with your father. Great. Thanks, Peaceful Lord. Thanks, Maria. But yeah, this is a. I wish they made more pops of authors. I've only seen pops of, unfortunately, of Stephen King and George R. R. Martin, but Stephen King has a few pops actually, and I got this one, and it's really nice, and you can see it's chapter 2 here. So yeah, let's see more comments. Sure. Okay, let's move on to. We have to wait for my father to come back so he can pull up the final book here. So yeah, but while we're waiting, we can talk about what I've gotten for what I've been reading currently. So recently, I've been reading the plot, ag- the plot against America by Philip Roth, which is alternate history where Charles Lindbergh beats Roosevelt in the 1940 U.S. election, and he remains neutral during World War II, and the United States slowly becomes anti-Semitic. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't like this book so far. I've got 100 pages left or so, but this is gonna be a fairly negative review of it feeling of. So yeah, but I have to finish this book. This is classed as an alternate history classic, so I'm gonna push myself to finish reading this book next week. But I'm not gonna read it that much each day because I don't like it. But to make getting through that book easier, I've been reading also Conquest and Cultures by Thomas Sowell, which I also borrowed at the library. And it's about conquest and cultures. So far, I've read the first chapter, which is about the British, so English, Wales, Scots, and Irish, and I'm currently on the chapter about Africans. And one interesting thing about Africa, one of the reasons they're much poorer is that their geography sucks. It's really bad. So they barely have any water ports. The rivers are not navigable at all. Oh, here's my father is back. So now we can talk about the final book, which is actually his own book, but he lent me it for this week. So the final book I read this month was The Life of Greece, the Story of Civilization's second volume by Will Durant. And this is a very, very thick book. I started reading it towards the beginning of the month, and I finished reading it at a few days ago. And you learn a lot about ancient Greek history. And I mean, yeah, you can show the pages.
Yeah, there's a great. So we always like when there's nice maps in books.
Yeah, and this is a famous history. This is a very important American historian, Will Durant, who basically wrote a whole cultural civilizational history dating back from early history up until Napoleon. And this I didn't read the first volume because that's about Oriental history, but this book is about ancient Greece, and it was interesting. Although he talks a lot about culture, so that got a bit boring for me. So he talks a lot about arts and theater and plays. So if you like cultural history, you like this book. But I liked a lot of the economic and political history, and you get some interesting sections about famous people like Aristotle or Plato or some Greek scientists. So that's a mixed bag. Yeah, I think maybe put it closer to the camera,
Yeah,
the table.
yeah. Just 1 second. Yeah. So this book, I believe, was published in 1939.
And you own this whole series, right? Only
The whole collection. Yeah, the story of civilization.
I think it's 11 volumes. Which is,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think so.
and these are big books. So this is 6,700 pages, and in small letters relative to the page. So one page takes you about 4 or 5 minutes to read, and it's what 670 pages, and then some of these volumes they're over 1,000 pages. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm ever gonna read them. And you, Father, you've had these books for a very long time, but you've read it.
I've never read one in full. No.
Yeah, yeah. I had to push myself to read this. It was a challenge.
But already reading this book, yeah, it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, there's a YouTuber who I watch, and he reads a lot of history, and he basically says half of all the historical knowledge he has comes from these books. You learn so much from reading this book. Like all these books combined, are what 8,000 pages or something crazy like that. So yeah, William.
And there's quite a few illustrations also in the book.
Oh yeah, towards the end you have a lot of pictures. No, no, not in the middle of the book. There's a lot of pictures. Yeah,
Yeah,
and the maps are nice. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah, so it's a very nice book. Yeah.
yeah, but it's a heavy book. So this is actually a book I had to read with my glasses. Usually I read without my glasses, but I had to read this with my glasses. But, okay. Williams Library. Pity. I still want to read The Plot Against America. Yeah, it's still The Plot Against America is still a highly regarded book. So there's a YouTuber who does alternate history videos sometimes. H YHCT Tower or something like that. He made a ranking of alternate history books and he put this like number 4 of his favorite alternate history books. But it's not my cup of tea for me. And also, this is when you read this book. If you're on the right, you feel a bit personally attacked when you read this kind of it presents Republicans as stupid fascists. So yeah, and it basically calls the guy who gets elected. The one of the characters you follow a Jewish family, but there's a Jewish father who basically says the presidents are Nazis and they're bad and they're doing this and that, but they never really do anything. So there's a lot of exaggerated rhetoric in this book, and it's very repetitive. And you also get it's based a lot of book. It's a book with a lot of story about a child, so that's a bit boring. Yeah. Oh, by the way, one of my favorite geopolitics authors, Tim Marshall, he recently released his own book, which I got in the mail recently. So I got The Future of Geography, which is geopolitics about space. And I pre-ordered this a few months ago, and I'm looking forward to reading this. I'm sure I'm gonna review this book towards the end of next month in May. So yeah, let's see. Okay, so does anyone have any more comments? Do you have anything you want to say, Father?
Well, of course, I really enjoyed doing this live stream with you, and I hope that one day I'll be invited again at one of your live streams.
Yeah. Did you get the whiskey?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, as it is my birthday, I thought, why not? We can drink? We can have me and my father. We are gonna have some whiskey together, even though we're in different countries. And if you want to drink something with us, you're welcome to. So
right, as long as you're 18 or 21, I guess in some U.S. states.
Or if you're Italian, do whatever. Yeah. So I like whiskey a lot, but I've had one bottle that it took me almost half a year to drink. So I'm gonna be drinking this. Where you can see this is Glen Scotia 1832 single malt Scotch whiskey, Campbell Belltown. My father got me this for Christmas, and it's 40%. So yeah, it should be an interesting taste. I haven't opened the bottle yet, actually. So we're gonna take this. You got
Well, for me, it's simply a Johnny Walker Black Label. Nothing very exotic.
Yeah, let's see. I'm not gonna have too much. I'm gonna go to bed soon, anyways. I have classes at 9 tomorrow. So.
Yes, 9 o'clock sharp.
Yeah. And after my classes at 9, they're making me bike a kilometer for another class 15 minutes later. So yeah, thanks, university schedule. But let's see. I saw some comments, more comments. Hymns are beautiful. I was going to create a YouTube channel. Yeah, go do that. Hymns are beautiful. It's fun to do YouTube, although it takes a lot of work. But I think I will make a blog instead. I'm camera shy. Yeah, when I started this YouTube channel, what I did before, I think I put on some music right before I recorded. And I think I choose some gum to relax. And remember, you can edit a lot of your awkwardness. So I stutter a lot when I do videos, but I edit that out. So half of my recorded.
Right. So it's best not to start with live streams. Yeah.
Yeah. I started with live streams after 2.5 years on this channel. But you can get pretty good at this pretty quickly. I mean, Williams Library, you've been making videos on your channel not that long, and you've done a live stream, and it's gone well. So it's not that it's a lot of work, but it's not rocket science. So
Well, I propose a toast
yeah,
to the invention of the printing press, which has allowed books to be accessible to a lot of people and many, many books.
yeah. Thank you.
Mm. I actually have a book here on the history of paper making that I bought in Venice a few years ago. I haven't read it yet, but it seems quite interesting.
Oh yeah, history of technique of ancient craft dared hunter. Yeah, that whiskey is strong. That's yeah. Cheers. I know you're in Indonesia, Williams Library, which is Muslim, and Muslims are not allowed to drink alcohol. But you're in the Christian part, so you're allowed to drink alcohol. So yeah, let's see. I saw some more hymns are beautiful. Why is a class making you bike somewhere? Okay, so I'm gonna explain. So I'm starting my block 4 in university now. I started last week, and the schedule they set up is that I have class in one building at 9 o'clock tomorrow until 10:45. It's a lecture, and then in another building, a kilometer off, I have to bike there because I have a class 15 minutes later, another lecture for an hour and 45, and after that, I have to wait 2.5 hours before my next class at
Oh, so
3:05. So yeah, Mondays are not gonna be fun this block. What? Oh, something happened with my father. Maybe he can get back. Hopefully, he can get connected. Let's see. Oh yeah, he's okay. Let's have him back. Let's see. Did you? Oh yeah, yeah. That happens with him sometimes.
yeah.
Oh, and I'm so beautiful. I don't have to bike. I could also be like a lot of students and try to walk a kilometer in 15 minutes, but I bike to university, so I have an advantage over other students that I can get to class faster. So that's good for me because last Monday, 10% of the students were late to the lecture, to the second lecture, which got the professor a bit angry for some reason. Williams Library, cheers, and that's right, Williams Library. Yeah, yeah. You guys, if you like, you guys, if you to drink alcohol, you can post in the comments what's your favorite type. Me, my favorite is whiskey, and I also like red wine. What's your favorite, Dad?
Whiskey, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a few bottles of alcohol here. Most of them are whiskey. I've got 3 different bottles here. And
And
when
most of them are full, so that's good. So that's good
yeah,
news.
yeah, yeah. This bottle I started drinking this in September, and I finished it this weekend. And I've been traveling a lot, of course, so I don't drink. So I've been drinking a bit, maybe when I'm in Sweden or Finland and Belgium. But still, this lasted. We're in March now. So, no, we're in April. So how long
So
did
about
this?
8 months. Yeah.
So yeah, I take at least half a year to drink a bottle of alcohol. Of
That's okay. But that was a big one.
20,
That's a liter.
yeah, that's a liter. So
But I also had some with you, so that's okay.
yeah, this one, the second one is 70 centiliters. So that will last until a few more months at least. Let's see. I saw some more comments.
At least, yeah.
Hymns are beautiful. Did you ever read the Days of Infamy turtle of novel? I haven't read that yet. I have that's duology. It's in Belgium with my father somewhere. But I'm gonna read this book during summer. I think so. So I'm thinking about reading the first book in July if I have time after we get back from Canada, and then I'll read the second book in August. That's my plan with that book series. Although I changed my mind about what I'm reading, so who knows. Williams Library. I like sweet alcohol, desert wines. What are desert wines?
Yeah, sweet wines that you have with dessert, for example.
Oh, Oh yeah.
More syrupy.
Is it similar to what's it called? Is it similar to a cocktail?
No, it's just wine, but it's sweeter and a bit more syrupy, a bit thicker, typically.
Yeah. Hymns Are Beautiful, the one where Japan conquers Hawaii after Pearl Harbor. Yeah, I know which book you mean. I'm gonna read that this summer. Williams Library and Bailey's, also sweet. You know what Bailey's is?
Yeah, it's creamy. I don't like it too much.
Yeah.
But it's quite popular. Yeah.
And the teacher is here, Les Lagentris. Hello, the whiskey drinkers. Happy birthday, Wikipedia. Thank you. Thank you, Lisbeth.
She's also the mother of the cat that you've met a little while ago.
Yeah.
And it's thanks to her that he's in our life, because initially I refused to have a cat on the premises because I've been allergic to cats all my life. But it seems I got used to this cat and I no longer have an allergy. And
Yeah.
I was not really fond of cats until developing a relationship with this cat. So it's thanks to Lisbeth that this cat is in my life and that he could join this live stream.
Yeah. And my dark thoughts about cats, since I met this cat, they're gone. So that's nice.
Sorry, no.
Uh, I did not have some. I did not. I did not have the feeling I had towards cats before were not nice feelings.
Yeah, we've been very much dog people.
Yeah.
And our current dog is very hostile towards cats.
Yeah.
When he sees a cat, he goes crazy.
But he's kind of blind, so he doesn't see them.
So he doesn't see them so much anymore. Yeah, he's becoming blind. Yeah, which is sad.
But when I go on dog walks, when I've gone on dog walks previously, sometimes there's a cat just waiting there somewhere, creeping around, just looking. But the dog doesn't notice it at all because it's hidden in.
I'll go see if he's back. Just 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I saw some. Les Lagentris. I converted him to a cat lover. That's a good job. A lot of people hate cats, and you're a reason why some people no longer hate cats, but actually like them and love them. And without Lucky, I wouldn't hang around with the cats here in the Netherlands, which are also quite friendly. Let's see, does anyone have any comments or questions or final thoughts? By the way, if you're curious about my equipment, so this is the new tripod I got, so I'm gonna be able to record better videos with this. And then I got here the microphone I use, which I used at the beginning of the live stream, but I couldn't use it with my father around because otherwise I wouldn't hear him speak. But I think I've improved my audio. I got a microphone in June or July. Yeah. All right. So I think, is he coming, the cat?
I think so. Yes.
Maybe we can end this live stream by having him say goodbye.
Right.
He said hello, so now he gets to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see.
So you bought a total of, or I bought you a total of 12 books today, and you bought 3 yourself, right?
Let's see. So I think you bought me 13 books, and I bought myself a couple books, and you bought yourself 2
books. Yeah. Lucky?
Yeah. And by the way, guys, if you were ever curious about what my library in the Netherlands looks like, it's this. It's not much. I don't have a lot of space, but yeah, I have a dozen or 2 books with me always in my place. Most of my books are in Belgium or in Sweden.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in Finland, don't you keep a few books in Finland?
Not really, no.
No.
But I've got I think I have over 50 books at your place. And then in Sweden, I have probably a couple hundred books. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. William's library. Blackout has a.
It's like if he wants. He's gonna come if he wants to come.
Yeah. Cat, you don't.
Nicky.
It's like William's library. I haven't read Blackout yet, but if I like this book, and I have a feeling it's gonna be a similar book to the one by Robert Harris, Fatherland. If I like that book, then I'll read the sequel, of course. But who knows?
Nicky. Hey, sois pogné.
Yeah, that cat does what he wants.
That's a cat. He treats me as an equal on a good day. On a good day.
But when you leave him alone a bit, then he comes back a lot.
Nicky. Hey, yeah.
But when I've read in Belgium, I've actually laid down in Belgium and reading, and he comes on my knees sometimes. And there he is.
There he is.
The Dead of Nights. Okay, William Sabri. I'll check it out if I like Blackout. So here is the cat to say goodbye. So do you have anything to say, Lucky?
I like readers.
He's relaxing. Yeah.
I like readers.
Yeah.
I get to sleep on them.
Oh yeah. I don't get to for a month and a half, so that's too bad.
Oh yeah. But you could FaceTime with him.
Yeah, I get to FaceTime with him. You like to FaceTime.
And he actually looks at the camera. He actually you can see the images.
Yeah, and he tries to attack the phone also. Yeah. So this has been a nice live stream, but we're gonna start ending it here. Has any final comments to say? Do you have any final thoughts, Dad?
I just hope you keep reading for the rest of your life, because I think it's really, I would say it's almost magical to read, because there's so many things to read, and you learn so much, and it allows you to travel to places that in many cases you would never be able to travel to if it's something that occurred in the past. And also to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. So I think reading is really something very special, and I hope you keep enjoying that.
Yeah. Well, I'll expect that. Hopefully I will, unless I go blind, but that's not likely.
And then you could have books on tapes.
Yeah. And you also get to visit worlds that don't even exist. So there are places that don't exist that you actually get to visit through reading. And you also learn a lot of facts if you read nonfiction, which is a lot of people don't like reading nonfiction, but we too do. Those are interesting books. So yeah. So I don't see any final comments. So I want to thank you guys for joining the live stream. I want to thank my father for this live stream.
You're most welcome. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and also I want to thank you also for buying a lot of this and then a lot of what you had also bought. So thank you. This video is sponsored by my dad partially. Yeah. But otherwise, thank you for joining us. Bye, Williams Library, and we'll see you in a stream soon. Hopefully I'll have a book review of that book I find boring out next Sunday.
Yeah, and to all the watchers today, don't hesitate to share William's channel with others, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would enjoy it. So don't hesitate to share it.
Yeah. Bye, peaceful world. And for any people who watch this stream after it was played out, you can of course post comments if you have any questions in the comment section down below. Anyways, I'm the Avid Reader, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.